Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to the lecture on Springboard Technologies. In today's lecture, let me show you how to create a simple Springboard starter project. So first you have to open the Eclipse IDE. Once you have opened the Eclipse IDE, ensure that you have installed the Springboard software already. You can go to help, then Eclipse Marketplace, just wait for some time. Then Eclipse Marketplace, search Springboard. Here my system is a little bit slow today. Spring So this Springboard Spring Tools 3 standard edition already I have installed. If you haven't installed this software, then you have to install this software. Just click here, install. Automatically it would be installed. So ensure that you have already installed the Spring Tools 3, the latest release. Okay, so you can find that in the Eclipse Marketplace. In the search box you enter Spring and then click go, then you can find the Spring package. Then how to create a simple starter project? Click File, New, Other. In Other, you can, in the wizard search box, you can type Spring. Okay, so here you can click Spring Starter Project. This would come only when this wizard would show the Spring packages, only when the Spring already you have installed, incorporated into the Eclipse IDE. So you can find the Spring Starter Project here, then click Next. So fill up the details. So what is the name of the project what you are going to start? Let me give some name, SP22 demo. So dependency management, either you can go for Maven or Gradle. I prefer Maven. And the Java version here. Okay, so these are some basic details you have to fill up. Okay, so SP22 demo. Okay, so this is a project description. This is a package. Okay, so package name, okay, how it should look like. Okay, so I give com.demo package name, then click next. So these are the different dependencies that you have to select for that we have to select for our project. For example, for creating a simple web project, then we need these dependencies. Then if we want to incorporate the web service, then we have to go for Spring Web Service. Then session management. So it depends on what type of service we want to incorporate in our project. Accordingly, we have to select the dependencies. So now, as of now, I'm going to create a very simple web application. So for that, Spring Web dependency is enough. In the future, if we need any other dependencies, we can add them in the pom.xml. That I will show later. Then also we have to see whether we need any other dependencies in our project. Okay, I would prefer going for time leaf. This is a front-end scripting tool like JSP or ASP. So this time leaf we would use along with the HTML. Then Spring Boot development tools. So these are basic tools that we have to incorporate in our project. For example, what this project can do is, like when we make some modification in the project, okay, we edit some code, so that would automatically it would be updated when we incorporate this Spring Boot development tools in our project. So actually our web application would be running in Tomcat web server, so no need to restart the server every time when we make any changes in the code. Automatically that would be taken care by this Spring Boot development tools. If we are not incorporating this, then every time when we make any changes, even small change, then we have to restart the server, Tomcat server. Then we have to execute the application again and again many times. So if we include this in our project application, then that would be automated. That process would be automated. And then this Spring Data JPA is very important. When we are going to deal with JPA, Java Persistence Application Programming Interface, or when we want to map a class into the database table fields, database table values. Okay, so in that situations, in the class we have to define the getter and setter method. So suppose we have 10 fields, then we have to, for each and for all the 10 fields, we have to set the getter and setter method. So this Spring Data JPA, I'm sorry. So Spring Data JPA basically help us to map the classes object into the table values, database table values. Object relationship mapping, ORM, we say that, object relationship mapping, ORM. Okay, so I am sorry, here there is a mistake. There is no need to talk about the getter and setter method. So this is regarding the ORM, object relationship mapping. Whereas this Lombok package, in the class, if we want to define the getter and setter method in the object relationship mapping, so if we do not want to do the getter and setter on our own, and if we want that to be done in an automated manner, then we can go for this lombard. So if we select lombard, then for each and every field the getter and setter method should be configured automatically. So these are the basic dependencies that I want to select, and also this is important, what database we are going to support in our application. Suppose I want to go for MySQL, then I can go for MySQL driver. Suppose we are using any other database engine, okay, then we can go for that, like PostgreSQL driver, Oracle. Okay, so now I prefer using the MySQL, so I select that dependency, MySQL driver, and Spring Data JPA also for ORM, object relationship mapping. So these are the basic dependencies that I select for our project. This is the beauty of the Spring Boot starter project. Otherwise, these dependencies we have to APIs, we have to explicitly download and configure in our project separately. But the Spring Boot, what it does, just we have to mention what type of project we are going to deal with. So related to our project, what kind of dependencies we might need. Okay, so just we select them, automatically these dependencies would be downloaded and configured by the Spring starter project using the Maven dependency management tool. Now I click next and finish. So this is how a Spring starter project configures a project, basic project. Let's wait for some time. Now the project has been created. So this is our project. So now you can see we have selected many dependencies, all the API jar files related to that dependencies are downloaded and configured. You can see this Maven dependency management. And this is the pom.xml, which is very important. So here, in case future, if you want to remove or add any dependencies, then you can add it here or you can remove it here. Okay, so this pom.xml is very important. Now let me run this. So how to run the Spring Boot project? So select the package, run project, run Spring Boot app. So it is showing some errors. Failed to configure a data source. So actually we have added the MySQL driver dependency. So it is asking the information about the database system. So I have MySQL in my system. So just go to MySQL workbench. So you can Google and find the tutorials how to download and install the MySQL and the MySQL workbench. Once you have installed the MySQL database system and the workbench, okay, then just start the MySQL workbench and connect to database. So remember the username and password, that is very important. So when you do the initial installation, that time you would give the username and password. Just remember that. Now let me create a schema here. Create schema. So sp22 demo is the schema name. So I am creating a schema. So just refresh. You can find the new schema here, sp22 demo. So go to the Springboard application.properties. So here we have to make we have to give the details about the database system in the application.properties file. Okay, so already I have the details. So this is what I want. So spring.data source. So this is MySQL driver. Then the URL of the database. So MySQL, it is running in the port number 3306. Okay, and our database system is sp22 demo. So this is the database schema, sp22 demo, and the credentials to log in into the MySQL system is username is root and password is 1234, and the database system is MySQL. Okay, so initially the database system, when you define the entity class, for that entity class it has to create the ORM tool. That JPA ORM tool would create a table inside this database. So we give the create. Once the database the tables are created, initial table structure is created, then we have to modify. That I would show you what we have to define here. So later, okay, so this is indicates that in the initial stage, if you want to create the tables based on the entity classes, using the concept of ORM, object relationship mapping, then we have to define here that the table has to be created. Once all the tables are created, then we have to modify this. So what we have to modify, that you will see in the later classes. So now we have created we have configured the property files. Then I go here, run as Spring Boot application. Now you can see our project, our application has started. It's running in the port number 8080. Okay, so we can access that now. So here I create a package, new package, com.demo, that is a root package. So in that I create a package for controllers. So I create a new package, controllers. So new, I go to that package and create a class. Okay, so my controller. So I create a class, my controller. Here actually we define the endpoints of our application, URI endpoints, through which the services provided by the application can be consumed by the clients. For example, public, I create a method here, public string say hello. Then I put here return hello, welcome to the SP22 project. So now actually this is at response body and this one get mapping. So here import the package. So this is the URI endpoint. So in the browser, if we call this hello URI, then it would return a string message to the browser. And why we put response body here, I want the data to come to the browser as a REST data. You know what I mean by REST data. Okay, so Now let's try this. Just save the file. So open a browser. HTTP localhost :8080/hello. It's an error message. Let me fix it. I think I forgot here. This class is a controller class. So import the package. So we have to define these classes as a controller classes. So in the controller classes we define the URIs using get mapping or post mapping. Okay. So now let's save it. You can see automatically it's updating. I am not restarting the server. See, this is to restart the server. Stop, then restart. I am not doing that. If we make any update, we are not restarting the server because of the dev tools which we have already configured in the Springboard starter project. So now let's try this. Yeah, now you can see it has the browser has got the message, okay, from the controller. This controller, okay, has a method that is identified by this URI header /hello. Okay, so localhost, that's the IP address of this local system, :8080 is the port number, and /hello, this is the URI endpoint which we have defined here. And why we put this here, response body? Because we want to return the data to the browser as a REST data. Now otherwise, if you are not putting the response body, then this data would be returned. This data has to be returned to a HTML file where the time leaf and the HTML would fetch this data and it would display that on a HTML file that we call it as view. Just you have to recall what is a MVC architecture, model view controller. So in the model view controller architecture, this is the controller, and the object that we send from the client side to the server side is the model. For example, employee object, student object, okay, or any other object of any class that we send from the client to the server, or we send from server to the client, is called model. And the data that we display on the client side is done using a entity called view. View is nothing but a HTML and the time leaf code that would fetch the model from the controller and display the data on the client side. And also the view, from the view we can send the data to the controller, and the controller can process the data and it can forward the data to the database system. Okay, so from the controller we have to call the CRUD operations, create, read, update, delete operations. That we would discuss in the forthcoming videos. So this focus of this this lecture video is to show how a initial Springboard project can be configured with database dependencies, time leaf dependencies, then develop tools dependencies and Lombok tools dependencies, and how to run the application and how to see the result. So that's all I have for the lecture 1 video about the Springboard, and we shall see the other contents in the forthcoming videos. Thank you very much.